that feeling that you get when you're in flow state? Everything seems to be going your way and you don't even have to think about it. Each player has a different range, and today let's break down how we can get there. Welcome to Game on Soccer, and today we'll be breaking down the individual zone of optimal functioning. The individual zone of optimal functioning, or IZOF for short, was created by this man, Yuri Hanin, a sports psychologist. He found that each athlete has their own emotional sweet spot for peak performance or getting into flow state, and it's not one size fits all. What works for one player may not work for another player. Some players are able to get into their own zone when they're super amped up and hyped up, while other players, they may need a more calmer approach to the game to help settle the nerves to get into their flow state. Originally, sports psychologists came up with the inverted U theory, which proposed that performance improves with an increased arousal up to an optimal point, after which performance starts to deteriorate. This means that performance is poor at very low or high levels of arousal, and a moderate or sweet spot level of arousal leads to the best results. This theory suggests the balance. Too little pressure leads to a lack of motivation, while too much pressure leads to panic and mistakes. The optimal arousal or peak performance is in the middle of the curve, and the arousal is at an ideal level where individuals are energized, focused, in control, allowing them to perform at their best. This theory would later be replaced by IZOF due to the fact that it was a simple global measure of performance and unidimensional view of arousal, which is considered too simple to explain the complex relationships. So then came along IZOF, or the individual zone of optimal functioning, a sports psychology theory that states that every individual has a unique range of emotions rather than one universal one, and tells us that some athletes have different zones, so the ideal zone for one person may be different than the other. Some athletes may need high arousal while others perform best while Let's calm. Take a look at athlete number 1 here. As you can see, their zone of optimal performance is in the low arousal side, meaning that they need to be calm to get into their best state, while if they are in high arousal, they are in poor performance or suboptimal performances. Whereas athlete number 2 here needs to be right in that sweet zone of arousal, where they're not too calm and not too aroused, but right in between. Finally, we have athlete 3, where if they are at a low arousal or too calm, that is poor performance for them, while when they're more hyped up or more energetic, they perform their best. So as you can see, everyone lies on different zones, and what works for one person may be different from the next. Let's take a look at some of the professional players and see what works for them and different routines. Here, let's watch Erling Haaland and Lamine Yamal prepare for a game, where we see one player is low arousal and the other player is high arousal. You can see how each player has their own approach to getting prepared for a game, but it doesn't matter because that's what works best for them. Next, let's take a look at some players on the field. We're going to have Donnarumma to our left, and then we're going to have Rudiger to our right. Take a look at how they react after these key moments in a game happen.
And he scores! Rudiger scores for Real Madrid. And he scores! Rudiger scores for Real Madrid.
And again, there's nothing wrong with either approach, but it just goes to show how different players thrive at different states of arousal. Next, let's take a look at how to find your individual zone. The first trick is to reflect on your games. Think about what emotions did I feel before and during games. Then you can track those feelings over time. So use a journal, write down your feelings, and write down the intensity on a scale of 1 to 10 of what you felt, as well as how you thought you played at that zone. Next, you'll start spotting some patterns and find out what zones work best for you over time. And lastly, once you find what zones work for you, then you can recreate it using routines, music, breathing, or imagery to enter your individual zone before games. Next, let's take a look at how to stay in the zone. One thing you can focus on is your pre-game routine, so find what works best for you, whether that's visualization, certain foods you eat, getting dressed, or your warm-up routine. The next one you can look at is breathing control. Breathing techniques are used to slow exhales and reduce anxiety. An example of this is box breathing. Next, we can take a look at self-talk. Focus on positive self-talk to keep you present and alert. And lastly, depending on where you land on the spectrum, you can use music to either pump you up or calm you down before games. To sum this all up, let's take a look at why it actually matters. This matters because you don't actually have to feel perfect to perform perfectly. The goal for this is to know your emotions, not to avoid them. and by mastering your individual zone of optimal performance, you can perform consistently under pressure.